Oh, good morning, gentlemen. Really, I just want to talk about the tactics of the ownership in terms of buying and selling players, which is, I think, vital if you are going to certainly more than just stay up in the Premier League. We've talked a lot about how our rivals Brighton have progressed up the league because they're able to sell players for quite a lot of money and use that to reinvest in the squad.
Yes.
And so it makes me think, well, why aren't Palace doing the same? But a lot of friends who aren't Palace fans have pointed out the fact that Steve Parish and Tony Bloom have very different minds. Tony Bloom is a gambling man and he knows, he follows statistics like the back of his hand, hence why Brighton are able to get a good, decent profit with players and climb at the table. And Parish is more of somebody who likes to take something small and make it into something big and keep it stable. So a part of me thinks, well, why not just go down the Brighton model? Because look at Dougie Freedman, how he's done a good job at finding players from the likes of Mark Guerre, Conor Gallagher, Olissier, and he's got that great sort of marketing way of convincing players to come. But then, in conclusion, I think Parish just doesn't have that sort of mind or doesn't want to take that risk in case it falls apart and then we therefore get relegated.
But Ben, undoubtedly, by the tone of your voice and the points you're making, you want change.
Yes, I mean it's hard to think because I'm a bit of a realist person. It's very easy for me to draw up a magnificent fantasy of saying, "Oh yes, I want all this money. I want Pep Guardiola coming in." But that's just that's for the birds. You've got to look at it from a realist point of view. There's one part of me that thinks, well, is it worth the risk bringing in someone in now, or is it worth just getting through this season as much as it's been really, really difficult? Let Roy go, let retire, and then have that full fresh change in the summer with the manager. But then the next question is going to be, well, B, is the new main stand going to begin in June? And C, is the new manager going to get the right investment?
Okay, I'll tell you what, Ben, here's the thing. Stay on the line. Simon's going to tackle that, but he'll tackle this as well because here's Taylor, a Crystal Palace fan. Taylor, good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on this morning. I think, one thing that seems frustrating to myself especially, and, a lot of other people like myself that are attending the matches week in, week out, it's just completely boring. You're leaving the game thinking, that's 90 minutes of my life I'm not getting back. We're setting up not to lose. We're ending up losing. It almost feels very much like yesterday. We're defending a 1-0 loss in a knockout competition. It's incredibly, incredibly frustrating. The choice of players seems strange. There's a lot of dead wood throughout the squad. To repeat what a caller said a couple of calls ago, we're issuing contracts to players that we're never going to push on with. We're strengthening in positions where we already have depth, but failing to fill very, very apparent gaps, being right back one of them. It's just, I don't see where we're going. I really don't. It's gone back to the times when Hodgson was in charge a few years ago, where, like I say, it's very, very boring.
Yeah.
It's almost making you not want to attend the games. It's dross. Is the only way to put it.
Taylor, stay in the line. Ben, you stay in the line because you're obviously passionate Palace fans, and in a calm, calculated way, you've made your points. Simon, what do you want to say to Ben and Taylor?
Well, I think they've got their views, and they're right to have their views. I mean, I'm not, as I said at the top of this, I'm not a huge admirer in certain ways of Roy Hodgson's style of play. We've seen it replicate itself in England. I think he's a very capable operator. Obviously, he's a very steeped in history football man, and I'm not discrediting that. But I don't enjoy watching his brand of football. Palace have a conundrum. They don't have investors that are prepared to go deeper in their pockets. They have a chairman in Steve Parish that's made his money predominantly through Palace, and people can make of that what they wish. If you spend 30 million a season, which is what Palace average spending, they spend 30 million a season, one exception, 21-22, where they spent about £70 million, of which about 40 of it went on two centre-backs. So you look at the style of play that they're going to be basing themselves on. They're in that season, they signed Olissier as well, and that's a good signing, and Eze's been a good signing. And Dougie Freedman, who, of course, I know very well, is a very capable operator. He was, in my view, he was responsible for the team that got promoted in that season Ian Holloway inherited, when you recruited some of the players like Jednak and Yannick Bolasie. So Freedman has got the nous to be able to recruit. He's got to be given the opportunities. That's why you saw Dougie being indexed to the Man United job in terms of falling into that regime because of his capabilities. Parish is Parish. You cannot argue with the fact, as much as I'd like to, that this is a club that's in the Premier League now because of a lot of the decisions that Paris has made.
But these guys are saying that, but Ben and Taylor are saying, fine, that's all well and good, but it's going backwards.
And
We're not moving.
and there needs to be a better balance struck between what Palace, and that will become from the management side of things. Now, Hodgson was put in. I didn't like the appointment. I thought it was okay to get them past the problems that they were clearly having with Patrick Vieira. But the appointment of Roy for another season lacked ambition. And it shows that. Brighton, that's one thing. Brighton, it's one thing suggesting that Tony Bloom has an accurate mindset because he's a spread betting expert, and so is Matthew Benham. But he spent 400 at Brentford. He spent £400 million of his money to get to a position where Brighton look really good. Right? Let's have it right. There's nobody at Crystal Palace involved with Crystal Palace that is currently in the share base of Crystal Palace and chairs the club that has that kind of wealth to be able to pump that kind of opportunity into Crystal Palace.
So what are you saying to Ben and to Taylor then? Sorry, guys, this is it. This is your lot.
I think there's a little bit of that, but I think also there is a possibility if you get different management and a different setup within the confines of this football club that you can turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. You just got to work harder at it and have a different forward-thinking process. And Roy plays the way Roy does.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.